everyone, I am ZombieGrub here with Maynarde at BlizzCon 2019. Of course, we're here primarily for the WCS Global Finals, but there's other Blizzard stuff going on, I guess. And Maynarde is actually casting. It has been casting, I should say. Yeah.
Have been and will.
Yeah, that's true. It's Thursday as of the time of this interview, so who knows what's going to happen tomorrow. Sarah could win, Sarah could bomb out, Sarah will probably win.
Probably win, yeah. There's definitely an extremely high possibility of that.
Yeah. But anyways, I haven't really seen like a general interview from you in like a very long time, it feels like.
Yeah, I don't remember the last one I did. No, you're right. I don't remember the last one I did.
I think on the Pylon show, we all kind of did like an introductory
it's a very
Pylon
small
show.
One, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so tell us about your story, and then like, all right, 10 minutes is up. And then they go to the next section.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm gonna like start from the beginning here. So, how did Maynarde get into casting StarCraft 2?
Well, ZombieGrub, I got into StarCraft 2 by playing in a BSG clan war, where I was Zerg at the time. I'm Terran now, so my sins have been forgiven.
Yeah, well, typical Australians.
Typical of Australians. I mean, everyone in my I didn't even realize everyone in my country played Zerg. I just picked Zerg because I was like, oh, this looks like fun. I like the evil alien race.
Yeah.
And I was playing this BSG clan war, and I bombed out. And I was having a few whiskeys that night, and a guy asked me on Skype. He's like, well, not asked me. He's like, he just basically said, I am streaming in front of 12 people, and all of you guys watching right now are probably in this clan war. If you would like to join me for a co-cast, then please add me on Skype. First one to add me can co-cast. I had a few drinks. I was like, yeah, sure, fuck it. So I jumped on board, and I was, making jokes. I was a little bit tipsy, and people liked my voice, and he's like, oh, wow, this guy actually sounds like a sports commentator. Like he actually sounds like a legitimate commentator. And I'm like, oh, that's just, that's just me just doing my thing. And because no one, similar to you, actually, like you didn't realize you had a good voice until people told you did. Similar to me, I had no idea.
Yeah. Surprising, but...
Yeah, I just had no idea. I just thought, I just sound like me. And a guy that ran a bigger league saw that cast and was like, oh, I want to take a chance on this dude. And the guy that saw the guy that ran the bigger league, nice, professional. You guys should sub to ZombieGrub. She's the best.
Yeah.
The guy that hired me for, well, actually it wasn't hired. It was more like,
right.
Are you free for 8 hours Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what it was back in the day. It was like, oh, I just want to cast. It's so fun. I still do it. And then he ended up getting hired by ACL, which was the Australian Cyber League, guys that essentially ran Halo, but at the time StarCraft 2 was a big booming industry, so everyone was playing StarCraft 2, and ACL had to put their console boys away and bow to the PC overlords.
Yeah.
And StarCraft 2 was blowing up esports in the West, as it did historically. And he was like, well, this guy's perfect. Put him on there. And I was basically their main caster for 3 years. But everything really changed in 2012, where ACL was hired by Blizzard Australia to run the WCS Oceania and Australia finals.
Okay.
With a live crowd. So
that was your big break?
It was my big break because I was stage hosting, but they also wanted me to commentate. So initially I was going to just be a commentator, but they were like, oh, we need a stage host. Can you do that? I'm like, yeah, sure. I wasn't a band. So I'm not afraid of stages, not afraid of crowds. And I know how to handle a mic. So sure, I'll do that. I ended up freaking the fuck out, by the way. Like, I actually, I admitted to the Blizzard guy, I'm like, he said on the phone, I'm like, would you get nervous? I'm like, nah, man, it's fine. I was speaking to him on my phone. And I remember the interview, I was like, no, I'll be fine. Not afraid at all. But I remember before I went out on stage, the first time I actually was pooping my pants a little bit. But it ended up being great. After I introed the tournament, the crowd went crazy and everything was easy. It's just, as soon as you get started, it's easy.
Yeah.
But the most important thing was that Tasteless and Artosis were at that event because they got hired by Blizzard ANZ with their infinite budget to be able to actually grab the biggest commentators at the time, not just in StarCraft, but in all of esports. Tasteless were gods.
Wow, yeah.
In 2012, a lot of guys, they are gods to us right now, but they back then even more so because StarCraft 2 was the biggest game and they were the bigger caster pair. So they obviously have a lot of friends. Everyone in StarCraft 2 knew who they were, and they told Apollo, hey man, you should get this guy for IEM. And Apollo listened to Artosis. I'm 99% sure Tasteless didn't say anything to anyone, but Artosis definitely did. And then it was Red Eye reached out to me. Apollo told Red Eye I want to try out some new people, and Red Eye reached out to me, negotiated a rate that I didn't charge them for years because I just was happy to be there, and I ended up back charging them like 3 years worth of IMs, but because they're like, what? You didn't invoice us?
You just never got paid.
And then I'm just, because I was just like, oh, I have a full-time job. I'm just happy to be there. I just want the experience. And so I didn't care about the money at all. But then I realized that if you don't invoice, then you are illegitimizing the people that actually do it for a job. So it's a very, very bad thing to do, and make sure you invoice.
That's true.
Always invoice. So I was a bad Maynard, and I learned my lessons. So they ended up back paying me about $15,000 all in once.
All at once.
Apollo was yelling at me. Joe Miller was yelling at me. but we got there in the end, and they all still like me, I think.
Okay.
But anyway, so yeah, once I got to IM, that was it. I was an international name. I did a pretty terrible job, but not bad enough to stop being hired.
You literally cast the finals.
Not of IM Shanghai.
Oh, Shanghai, sorry. So when did you do, what was it, Katowice?
Katowice. Yeah. Like, Shanghai was my first international event in 2013. Katowice was my first final. That was in 2015.
Oh, so 2 years later, actually. Mm-hmm. Or about 2 years
I did a lot of IM since then. I went to, like, Taipei, Singapore, and a couple times in China, Shanghai a couple times. Yeah, there's a few IMs that I probably missed, but...
Yeah. It was kind of interesting to watch your rise because, I mean, I don't think I really knew the name Maynard. Maybe it was that Katowice that I was like, oh, this guy's really good because rather, like, I guess famously, you actually replaced Kalaris for that event, which at the time, Kalaris was definitely more of a caster.
That was a controversial moment at that particular tournament.
Right. So I think that caused maybe, like, the whole, like, okay, who is this guy? Not just, like, he did a good job, but there's also a little bit of that going on.
It was a PvP, which I was terrified of commentating in front of that many people because I have relatively decent game knowledge back then, but back in 2015 I had very little. Like I knew Terran stuff, and that's only Terran stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like really scary. But I mean, you probably did a great job, right? Like
I guess.
I really don't. I have to be honest. I did not watch that, and maybe because it was a PvP fight.
I wouldn't have either. But I mean, it was just one of those things where ESL wanted to take a chance because they saw it was specifically because at that event I was getting a lot of praise in the community, like Reddit and stuff like that. And ESL and Blizzard do read Reddit, so behave yourself out there, Reddit poster. They do read Reddit, and they do read the forums and Team Liquid, and go, oh, this guy's getting a lot of praise, and he's working very hard at this event because I was working extremely hard at it, as I usually do. And they're like, we want to reward him with this.
Yeah, which is an awesome thing to feel like you're doing a good job.
Actually, incredibly rare because usually the finals is chosen by the in-house commentators. For instance, BlizzCon is always going to be Taste Host in the grand final. You don't get there's no merit award, there's no meritocracy for the big WCSs.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of things to talk about for that subject. Like the way that you choose the final casters might actually be surprising. It is, but I'm not going to talk about it now. So that's maybe for later. Recurring theme here in my interviews is that I'm going to be doing a podcast about just casting. So I don't want to go too deep.
Can I be on that? Am I on it right now?
No, you're not. But you will be on it. You'll be on the actual podcast. Okay. Where we go really... I
would love to be on that podcast.
Yeah, we really dig deep into like what makes a good caster and all that stuff.
I love digging deep.
I don't want to dig deep today. But kind of on that, I guess, choice, right, that you were doing a great job. What do you think made you an interesting, like, good caster, and what do you work on to improve as a caster right now?
Okay, so what I do to work on myself right now is I have some very glaring weaknesses that I'm going to mention out loud and will probably affect your enjoyment of my future casts for anyone that does like me. I say a lot, like I just did just then. I go in casts. Like and when you're having a conversation is okay.
Right. Because
you're trying to think of something and you're just making a noise to sort of fill the void. Because if you sit there silently staring at someone, it's weird. But but when casting happens, that whole being afraid of silence is actually, it's better to be silent.
Right.
And let your co-caster speak, because you're never casting alone, really, unless you're doing like stuff from home. And it's better to, like, I feel like it's like nails on a chalkboard for me when I hear myself do it. When anyone's like a caster, I actually am like, oh, just close your fucking mouth. Sorry. She can edit in a beep. But yeah, I'm just like, it's just so much better to be silent. But my brain has this like muscle memory thing that I'm trying to train it out of to just fill the silence with a sound. Yeah. Which just it makes me sound like a moron. And I hate that. So
I understand that. It's very weird though, because as casting is a totally organic thing, and that's what a lot of
It's like, nothing about what we do is scripted.
Yeah, exactly. But in every other way except the chemistry that we show, we have to actually act like it is scripted. We're supposed to be perfect with whatever we choose to say, which is, actually impossible.
Yeah, no, it is impossible.
Yeah, you don't get to write a script and then read a script and then study a script and then do the script, which, by the way, takes like 2 takes with that in mind. But imagine just being able to say one thing at that moment and then being like, oh, that was super dumb. No.
Yeah.
Like an instance where your sentence is more than just 2 where you actually like realize you've lost track of your thought and you're just like, co-caster, save me.
That's happened before a couple times where I'm getting so into whatever I'm talking about that it's weird. When you're concentrating super hard on what you're talking about, sometimes you can forget about what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done that so many times, luckily more online, but like I think I've done it with you in the Elite League where I'll be like, well, first of all, there's this thing that happened, and there's this thing that happened, so that other thing...
And then blue screen.
Oh shit! What was I talking? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it happens a lot.
Yeah, no, and it's actually like another thing that's happened to me at this event, actually, where I will make a call before I know it, and I need to stop doing that. I think there's never a good moment. There's never a reason to do that other than being fast. Like being fast is sometimes cool, being a fast commentator because people enjoy just like the energy and that sort of thing and the pacing. But for instance, at this event, one thing that annoyed me was I said something like, oh, I believe the medevac got away, and it didn't. And then it's like, no, it didn't, it died. And I'm like, well, I could have just waited 5 seconds.
It does.
And then not look like less of an idiot.
I think that's actually like a legitimate problem for play-by-play, and
because I get really fast when I'm in the like the flow.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that like, again, like I want to say this for the podcast, and I'm also so eager to like just talk about it now. Where when I was studying to be more play-by-play, because I was just known as analytical, and I thought that was weird, but also just to branch out and be a more interesting caster, I was like, let's actually try and study play-by-play. The first thing I realized was that play-by-play casters get so much bad rep because they are supposed to be the fast, energetic guys, and it's so easy to go with the game, which is not actually decipherable as you watch it, and then you just realize, you're like, oh my god, that guy's going to win the fight. Oh, actually, he had +2, and then also blah, 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 and then you either try and fit that in and take away the analysis from your co-caster, or you just sound dumb because you're like, and then he didn't win. Okay, go analyst.
It always looks bad when you're like, oh, he's going to crush through. Well, actually, is he though? Oh, okay, he's getting beaten back. Wow. And you're sitting there for 30 seconds trying to justify it to everyone that's watching right now that you were wrong. And you're just like, well, I mean, it looked like it. I don't know. You don't know better, guy in the chat. You wouldn't have done a better job. All right, shut up. Permanently ban this person, please, mod. But no, I never do that. But there is a when you're sort of just freestyling a little bit, there is like better words and better turns of phrases to use that would keep you so safe.
Right.
Like, instead of going, oh, I think he's just going to crush through this fight, you just go like, here's going to be a very, very, close engagement, because if you don't know, then don't say it.
Yeah.
That's something that I definitely beeped up with a lot. Okay, I fucked up with a lot. I picked up it's just such a big problem for me over the years. But that's sort of the stuff I'm working on mainly. Like my game knowledge is not something that I don't sit there poring over the text, the great tomes of StarCraft knowledge. Blowing the dust off the great encyclopedias of all StarCraft data and information. But I learn just by honestly sitting around with my friends, like with Artosis and Roddy and the pro gamers as well, like sitting with them and talking about their builds and games and meta. I learn a lot from that, and also from watching a lot. I don't really learn it from. I learn a bit from playing. You got to play StarCraft to really have a feel for it. Playing StarCraft actually helps a ton with knowing who's going to win a fight. Because you can see a battle and go, oh, I know what this feels like.
Yeah, I think that, I do think that playing is important, but I think that it's less important to be actually good at playing than what most people think.
Yes. There is a bit of a, I don't know, like I almost want to call it outdated, but I feel like it was never correct, where people think that you have to be a grandmaster to be any good at commentating.
Right.
Like people think that Cyril would do a better job than me at commentating at a BlizzCon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, they're kind of different skill sets, but I think he would be actually, now that I think about it, I think Cyril would be a fun addition to like a desk or something.
Sure.
We had Snoot at an IM once. He was actually really good.
Yeah, Snoot and Wax. If I recall correctly. Wax
was definitely at one, yes.
Yeah, it was fun.
A dream hack.
But they are entirely two different skill sets. And it's one of those things where you don't actually know what's going to happen until you actually do it. So that's why it's always best to be like, well, you ever tried it? And then it's like, I know it's a very easy thing to say to people who are like ragging on you. You'd be like, well, you wouldn't do any better. But in reality, what you're actually trying to say is like, well, if you tried it, you would give me better feedback, more constructive feedback than you are currently doing by saying ZombieGrub or Maynarde sucks.
Yeah.
Which is usually the case. That's why we say like, maybe you wouldn't do any better. I feel like when we say that, we don't actually just sit on our high horses and like looking down at the peasants. It's more just like, that's not constructive, and you don't know how to do constructive criticism.
I'm more when I get the really non-constructive criticism, it doesn't bother me because I've probably had this conversation with you. I think about what they are,
yes,
who they are,
yeah,
and usually there's someone that's not contributed any money to the game, not actually given to the game at all, other than maybe they bought it before it was free to play.
Right.
They've never been to a tournament. They've never casted a tournament. And they haven't basically contributed in any way to StarCraft whatsoever, other than shitposting that a caster is bad in a Twitch chat. And then I'm like, do I really want to be bothered by that person? Probably covered in pizza pocket cheese and unwashed pair of shorts they've been wearing for 6 days. And am I bothered by that person? Not really.
I know you have a specific accent you give those people.
Do I?
Yeah.
I don't remember it.
The Hank Hill or whatever.
Oh, Dale Gribble.
There you go.
No. That's the You got to read like specifically, longer comments, not just like one single line, but longer comments. Who reads Dale Gribble?
Yeah.
That's actually there's a lot of builds to as a semi-public, a semi-popular person in a semi-popular game. There's a lot of builds out there for the feedback that I get to make it not sting at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's good at that. All right. So you're always an optimist for StarCraft 2.
I am.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah.
I mean, when stuff's really bad, I am realistic in the end. Like I'm not completely left or right. I'm a bit more of a centralist.
I just did an interview with Fear Dragon where he said that if you worked really hard, you'd one day be able to beat Tastosis and cast the grand finals of BlizzCon.
I'm a realist, like I said.
Okay, thank you.
As long as they're around, they will be casting the final.
Yeah. But there's times where certainly it's worrying, or, I mean, even when the balance is kind of bad, I know we try to stay away and try and look at the positives, because that's kind of our job, is to direct a narrative that's enjoyable for people.
Yeah.
But even when, recently things have kind of changed, to be real with you, right? Like, we'd know the company we're working with, and a lot of people we would know directly who we would trust and know, and a lot of people have left. The atmosphere in general for StarCraft is kind of changed, even though I don't think any of us are actually pessimistic or afraid of the future, but it's certainly changed. So do you just keep your optimism? You're still, I know you've said before, like when StarCraft 2 goes, you're gone, you're in it till the very end.
Unfortunately for everyone that doesn't know, I've said it many, many times that I'm very all in this game. If it goes away, I will go away, because there's nothing that's come out that I will like as much.
Yeah.
And people will want excited, screaming Maynard. At least some people will. They'll want my very hypey voice thing, but that's because I'm actually really excited. I don't actually fake any of that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Everyone else
they don't know.
Right.
Maybe some of you guys do, but yeah, like so I don't want to be on wiki feet. So that whole thing is, yes, Blizzard's definitely a much different company now. And there is definitely a different feeling. When 2018 happened and Cyril won and beat the Koreans finally and was the world champion, it was like one of the highest points in StarCraft 2 ever, and it felt like really fast. There was a giant, like a roller coaster epic roll down, because shortly after that there was the layoffs.
There's Heroes first, and then
layoffs, HGC first, then the layoffs, and also they were taking a while to announce WCS plans.
Right.
So everyone was in a furore. There was like, oh shit, it's over. And every single year that rolls around, people are like, is there gonna be a WCS next year? I'm extremely confident there will be for the next at least handful of years, but Blizzard's definitely not the same company they were back in the day. The team for StarCraft is still quite small, but they work very hard, and actually, I have a lot of respect, and I think they're doing an incredible job considering how small their team is. And balance gets fucked up every now and then, but if balance is ridiculous, like if balance is really stupid, it will get fixed.
Yeah.
Even though the balance design team is quite small as well, but I guess it's just faith, honestly. Like the people that are still in StarCraft, aren't there because they're being punished. They're there because they actually like StarCraft and they want to work on StarCraft and they're very passionate about it. And when someone is passionate about something, I have faith that they will try to do a good job. So
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, if they didn't care, then yeah, of course they'd do a shit job. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But if they did care, then I think they would do a good job. And I don't know the balanced people at all, except for Monk. I think Monk is one of them. I don't know. He might be.
Monk.
He might be a co-op guy, actually.
Yeah, I thought it was just co-op.
Yeah, I might be misspeaking there. I actually don't know the balance designers. But the future of StarCraft 2 is something that I feel is mostly fine. Mm-hmm. I can't, it will. I mean, all good things must end. It will end one day, but I think that's still a ways away.
Yeah. So with that in mind, like the general direction of StarCraft, so we had the recent proposed balance changes. So with that in mind, but also just like the idea of perhaps a smaller but more tight-knit community, less developer focus, like all those things, like the latter things can sound bad, but we know that a lot of the best esports have actually risen from less developer interaction, actually.
Yeah, Melee, Brood War.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of fighting game communities really actually thrive without their developer interaction.
And honestly, Counter-Strike, one of the biggest esports in the whole world, has pretty little from Valve, from what I understand. Like
they like Dota more. That's what I understand as well.
It's a bit of a meme where Dota's like the wanted child, like the one that gets played with because CS:GO is like the older baby that like parents are just like they'll be fine, and Dota's like the new kid where they're like, oh, he's so cool little baby.
Exactly
Dota. Yeah. Give him some money.
Yeah,
more money for Dota.
That's what I guess Overwatch is to compare to.
Yeah. Well, Overwatch is our new baby that Blizzard loves very, very much.
Yeah.
So and Counter-Strike's doing fantastically. Mainly off the back of things like microtransactions, which is why I like things like War Chest and that sort of thing is so important. Is like a community funding is the future.
Yeah.
And if we don't, and that's actually a part of the reason why I'm usually pretty optimistic about StarCraft as well, because our community is fucking ridiculous with the amount of money they put towards not only just streamers, but like every Home Story Cup, they'll donate 25,000 euros, which basically funds another one. Yep. If Take can get sponsors as well, it's just basically that's another one. It's done. Take sometimes says like Take can be doom and gloom. Sometimes it'll be like, oh, I think this might be the last Home Story Cup. Never the last Home Story Cup. The community won't let it go away. They'll just keep funding him. Yeah.
We do have that particular position where we're also a generally older community that is also
a lot of adults
generally more well off as well. Whatever studies have been done in the StarCraft 2 fan base have kind of proven that, but now there's been like super overarching ones. But anyways, with all that in mind, are you confident about your, I guess, career in StarCraft? So you're streaming on Twitch 5 days a week at least. You guys should check them out, twitch.tv/Maynarde. But like if WCS were to die, all right, like that's the catastrophe for people like us. It's actually not a catastrophe so much for you guys because there'll still be a lot of online tournaments and all that. So that's always a weird discussion to have with like casters versus the general public. But if that were to happen, do you still have confidence in StarCraft 2 being a quote unquote a live game just because of the community and the support you get from the community?
There is no world where that isn't a giant blow to the game. There is no positive spin on that whatsoever. I mean, killing off WCS would be the absolute worst case scenario for StarCraft 2.
It would.
The only thing that's worse than that is shutting down all the servers so you can't actually play the game.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of that's worse. But WCS going away would absolutely be the biggest blow to the game I can think of, but would it still be around? Sure. What would it look like? A lot smaller, much less people that are full-time, if any.
Right.
And there'd be a lot more reliance on, Take TV and that sort of thing to take the reins, base trade and the community people to run tournaments and that sort of thing using their StarCraft fan base, because the first thing that will happen is that the fans will want a place to go. They'd be like, well, I can't go to Twitch TV StarCraft anymore to watch my tournaments, so where do I go if I'm a StarCraft fan? I only care about StarCraft and RTS, and no one's running those tournaments anymore. Where do I go? They'll find homes in those places.
Yeah. The infrastructure will certainly change once the professional players, I think, drop off, which would inevitably happen without the support of WCS. So you're right, it would be a catastrophe to, I guess, everyone. I shouldn't have said it was just to us, but in terms of
gamers, people full time, like it would be very similar to HGC, where a lot of the players will leave the game as well. The pro teams will disband. you'll be very hard pressed to find any sponsors, but it'd be possible.
Yeah, it is this weird thing though. Like, so to end my thought there, anyways, is that to you guys, it's just like, well, I don't have to watch StarCraft, and that makes me sad, right? So a lot of us, it's like, oh, what do we do now?
Yeah.
So that's the difference I was trying to highlight more so. But you're absolutely right; it would be a really catastrophic blow. But do you see yourself still like? I mean, if there was a dire enough community in StarCraft to still support the guys who have actually made a career on Twitch, do you think you fit that? Like, your stream's been pretty good lately.
It's been all right. I think that if I took off more as a streamer, as a personality, where I could basically stream anything, or maybe just stream strategy games. People just really like strategy games. That's the thing. Like, I'm a gamer. Like, I like a lot of you know, a lot of people that play StarCraft only play StarCraft. I primarily play StarCraft, but I definitely play a lot of games. And if enough people liked that, and I could just do that, then great. I don't think that's super likely. Even though, like you said, my stream's been doing great, but a lot of that is off the back of StarCraft 2's fan base because they're ridiculously generous. But honestly, like, my worst case scenario with WCS going away or something like that would be to probably just get back into a office job, being a monkey in a cubicle somewhere and still being able to earn money to make a living. But I would always and forever be willing to cast an event if they wanted me. So if like, you know, even if it takes years for people to get enough money to have like, hey, we're going to have this big StarCraft 2 celebration and grab all of the old names, I would be like, here's, you know, I will see you there. Yeah.
You're kind of unique in that, I think, of all the commentators, even like Fear Dragon, who also has like, I guess, a very promising full-time potential job elsewhere. You're kind of unique in that you are just like, nope, just StarCraft. Not even, you know, really going to try and do the Twitch stuff, which is very interesting to hear. I mean, it's you know, it's cool in one way, but then in another, it just seems like you're so, I guess, cliche time. You're so full of life when you're on that stage talking about a video game, right? And it would really suck, I think, for everyone who are fans of Maynarde to be like, I just don't get to see Maynarde anymore. Even though there's other cool games I think you would be excellent at, you are actually just like, nah, like not going to really force myself into one.
I've always been open to it. I've never sat there and going, oh, I don't want to be a game trader. I hate game trading. I'm not one of those. But I think if you enjoy a game and you want to commentate it or play it, then go for it. Like, it's ridiculous when people call you a game trader or they're like fucking weird about it like that. But you know, but there's just not been other games that I've just been as excited about.
Yeah,
that's all. You know, that, like you said, I'm full of life or whatever, which makes me blush, by the way, and thank you very much. It's a lovely compliment. But that life won't be there for, I don't know, Counter-Strike or whatever game. Like, maybe there's a seat on the table for Counter-Strike, or maybe Riot releases an RTS, something like that. If I don't like, I was actually having this conversation like last night with Tasteless on Toast. We were talking about which developer would very likely release another RTS, because no one's making RTSs right now, or rather they're making them, but they're jank.
Yeah.
Which is probably more, you know, there are still RTSs, but they just aren't very well made. Like, they don't have the polish that like a developer like Valve or Riot would definitely put on their game. But I feel like, you know, I was sitting there going, oh, if Riot made an RTS, I don't think I'd be able to cast it, because there'd be so many people involved with Riot that would, you know, with League and that sort of thing, that they could just basically, they have relationships with people at Riot, and they would be...
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, but then Tosa said to me, he's like, are you kidding, man? If all the StarCraft people give that game the seal of approval, that means that game's legitimate.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So they would actually want StarCraft people to cast it, because it makes the game look like a legitimate, like, high-level RTS.
Yeah, it does.
So maybe, I don't know. You know, I don't particularly have any love or affinity for any developer at all, except for, like, some of my casual develop. Like, I love From Software and, like, CD Projekt Red and people that make, like, single-player games.
Yeah. I don't know either one of those, but sure.
From Software make Dark Souls.
I figured.
CD Projekt Red made The Witcher 3.
Ah, okay. All right.
So like, you know, big dovelopers that are certainly AAA, but you know, they just make incredible. Like, they just basically, they only release masterpieces.
Yeah.
You know, that's all they release. So, but I love developers like that. But honestly, some of the big developers of the multiplayer games, I'm not any particular fan of. But I am a fan of good games, and when one comes around, I would definitely do it. And I'm rambling. What am I talking about again? What was the question? What was the question? You were talking about the people feeling bad about me going away.
You wouldn't do more commentary in another game.
Not unless that game blew my socks off. Blew my hair back, as it were.
Which is unlikely.
Which is hard, because my hair's heavy.
It's true.
But if it did, you know, blow me away the same way StarCraft did. Like when StarCraft 2 came out, I'm like, this is actually the best game ever. A lot of people have told me stuff like, nah, man, you need to play 20 hours of Dota to enjoy it. I'm like, fuck off. Why do I ever fucking spend 20 hours hating my life just to potentially enjoy a game?
Right.
Minute 1 of StarCraft 2, I was in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is so fun. I fucking love RTS. This game's so polished. It's so beautiful. You know, the campaign was fun.
Yeah.
I had a great time playing. I played the campaign, finished it, then I started playing ladder, and I did that every expansion pack. It was just like campaign first, finish the campaign, then ladder. And I just played Sony team games. I just enjoyed everything about it. Everything about the game, I fucking loved it. I was just like, this is just the perfect. This is so far up my alley that it's buying real estate and starting a family.
Yeah. It's, again, unique. It's one of those things where I think you are the guy that just, like, loves this particular game so much, and you just also happen to you have skills and talent in things that are very pertinent to having a job in the game, but you're just totally all in on it that, you know, for other people, I'd ask, like, well, what do you think makes, like, a good overall host, entertainer, and you just be like, well, I just love StarCraft. So
No, I mean, I could host other games, but casting other games is different. Like, hosting and casting is different.
Okay, so you would be open to hosting stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that, actually. I know there was maybe some potential secrets, but I didn't realize you're actually open to doing other games for that particular role.
I mean, it would be weird because I'd be with a crew of new people.
Right.
And I'd just kind of be the odd one out. You know, it's like any crew of casters, even StarCraft 2, if you've got a host that isn't really a part of the circuit very often, they just sort of like
float in, float out.
Float in, float out, kind of do their own thing. You're like, I don't have a relationship with these people. I'll be on stage. I'll be here on call time. But, you know, one of the things I love so much about StarCraft 2 is that we're all friends and we're all quite close. You know, all the WCS guys and Smix and you and all those guys, like we're all quite close. We all have a relationship and we all have, like, we don't have any of those dramas or we don't ever want to be like, oh, I don't want to hang out with that person. Yeah. We've never had that issue. Like, there's never a situation where we've been like, oh, I've had enough Roddy. No Roddy today.
No, we never.
No, I've never had that.
All the Roddy.
All the Roddy, maximum Roddy.
Exactly.
But I feel like if I became a host for another game, I'd have to like build relationships again, and I'm not really like you wouldn't think it because of how like you know I'm quite social and you know I'll talk to people, but I actually am not. I'm a bit of an introvert. I'm very private. Yeah, very private, very introverted. I don't care to add more people to my circle as well. Like I kind of feel like I don't do a good enough job at keeping in contact and keeping relationships with the people I do have. And if I added like another 5 people to that, I'm like, well, I'm not going to be able to maintain that.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is too much work.
Yeah.
You know.
I know exactly what you mean. And certainly if you're going into a newer game as well, there's going to be a lot of the, well, let's be real, there's going to be a lot of douchebags trying to clamber over each other, trying to get to the next big game. I mean, that's happened every time. I
mean, all the new games that Riot's releasing, I mean, that this theoretical RTS that I'm pulling out of my
Tiny.
I nearly said mind vagina. That's where my head is. That's where my head. That's where my head is right now. Yeah, my brain is giving birth. My brain is giving birth to
oh my god
to a theory, and I'm just like, oh god. Yeah, I nearly said it, and then I did say it, and this is where we are. Let's use the word idea. There's the idea of this Riot RTS, pulling it out of nowhere. From my mind vagina, from my brain womb, that I cooked up. But I'm just like, you know, if they did make this thing, it feels like it would be so competitive. Mm-hmm. Like I said, the Riot commentators would be like, "Oh, a new game, shit. We've been casting League for 9 years. We should probably get onto that. You know, something different." And it's going to be like any time a brand new esport comes out, there is a clamoring of people to crawl over each other to get into that esport. And you're absolutely right. A lot of them. They're not pleasant, and they basically use follow accounts, egos, clout to muscle their way into the gig.
Yeah, some do it wisely and courteously, and some other people just kind of kick you out of the way.
And some of them are honestly very courteous and very cool about it, and just at the right place at the right time, and some of them are actually malicious.
That's very true.
No names named.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of going a little bit long, so I just want to sum up our discussion with StarCraft 2 is awesome. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. Even if it did, I would still love it and do it all the time.
Not worried at all.
Yeah, and other esports kind of suck.
Yeah, that's a summary. And I also said mind vagina.
And also, mind vagina is a thing now that we will be saying in future WCS casts. Just kidding, Blizzard.
Please hire me again.
Where are we?
Also, hire her. What the fuck? Jesus,
yeah.
Blizzard.
Yeah, Jesus.
Like, Blizzard, if you watch this, you fucked up. Hire ZombieGrub for everything, please. Improve your shows.
Look
it's
what...
the easiest and cheapest thing in the whole world to improve your show is to hire ZombieGrub. Jesus Christ, Blizzard.
Look what I drew out of Maynarde, guys.
From my mind
A
vagina.
mind vagina. that's the only thing you get when you get Zombie Nerd.
Well, you know, I have great ideas for shows because I'm the one that decided that we should have one chair less for the broadcast in the round of 16. Everyone was like, wow, that's a really good idea.
It was good.
So if you want me to improve your shows, let me help you, Blizzard. Let's put some more ZombieGrub on those desks.
Exactly.
My God.
So enough about me in this interview. So do your shout-outs if you would like.
Twitch TV Maynard. I'm there, like you mentioned, 5 days a week when I'm home. Twitter.com MaynardSE2. I am being bullied constantly to make an Instagram. I might do it at some point, but I am a strong believer that if I did get an Instagram, I know myself very well, I would never use it.
Yeah.
I would have it, and I'd never open it, never comment, never like anything, and I would post a picture maybe once a year. And it would probably be my dog.
Yeah, just put it in your dog account.
I have a dog account, actually. My dog has Instagram.
Okay. All right,
Loki the Spitz.
I don't know why people are pressuring you then.
No, and honestly, the account was very active when he was a baby, and now he's a little bit older. He's not very active anymore.
Okay.
He was a lot more adorable when he was a puppy.
Well, follow him on those other accounts. I mean, you do YouTube as well occasionally.
Yeah, YouTube, but very, very rarely. I am still working on a long form. I'm just such a perfectionist with my YouTube content. Like, I don't want to just cut Twitch and upload it there. No offense. I know it's been very successful for ZombieGrub and also for Pig, and a lot of people just do that. But I personally, I didn't want my YouTube to just be a collection of VODs. I want to make tailored content for the YouTube. So you can follow that if you like, subscribe if you like, but there's not much there yet.
Yeah.
Just a couple of videos. But there is one on the way, and it is about ladder anxiety.
Interesting.
It's nearly done.
Yeah.
80% done.
Very cool. I look forward to that. Thank you for taking the time to do this interview, Maynard. And thank you all for watching. Please follow the channel, and I'll see you guys on Twitch and YouTube later. Bye-bye.